the engineering design process, TE1. Let's get started. The first word that we need to define is the engineering design process. The engineering design process is a series of steps that engineers follow to come up with a solution to a problem. Okay? Now, many times the solution involves designing a product to accomplish a certain task. Okay. Here is your definition for engineering design process. If you have missed rules, put a box in the upper right hand corner. Okay. Next word we need to define is technology. Technology is a product or system created to meet a human need. Okay, often we think of technology as being just computers, okay, smartphones, okay, but also a pencil is a technology, even let's say sticky notes, okay. So any product or system that is created to meet a human need is actually defined as technology. All right. Next word to define is engineer. An engineer is a person who designs new forms of technology. Okay. All right. The next word we need to define is prototype. A prototype is a working model of a technology. Okay, and in just a little bit, when we actually look at the engineering design process, you'll see the purpose in creating a prototype. All right. Now, if you have Miss Gunner, put a triangle in the upper left-hand corner. All right. The next word we need to define is cost-benefit analysis. Okay, and what the cost-benefit analysis does is it determines if the company producing, or I should say manufacturing, the technology will profit. Okay. Now, you ask why that's important, because a company will not produce a product if they're not going to make money from it, okay? So the cost-benefit analysis, it's all about the money, money, money. There were some of my singing skills for you. Okay, now we actually need to go into looking at the engineering design process. Now, this is one graphic here that you do not actually have to record, but I do want you to see that it is a process. Okay, the circle is not ending, all right, it is a process. So keep that in mind, even though if you go through these steps that I'm getting ready to go over in just a second, just because you go through them once doesn't mean that you should be done with your prototype, okay? You'll find that you'll need to go through these processes, this process several times before you have a finished product. Okay, if your last name begins with the letter L through Z, put a star in the bottom right hand corner. Alright, so let's look at the engineering design process. Okay, step one, what do I need to do? You need to identify a need and complete research. Okay, alright. And that one pretty much explains itself. Okay, step two, you need to brainstorm. Okay, and when you brainstorm about something, you need to come up with a plan. Okay, now guys, this includes, you need to make drawings. Okay, You need to identify your materials that you plan on using. All right, and you also need to estimate time and cost. Okay, so all of this goes into your brainstorming or thinking about your plan. All right. The third major step after you've come up with a plan is that you need to create that prototype. Now, this prototype would not be what you would immediately market, but instead it is a working model that you can experiment with, test it out, see how it does, okay? So let's define what a prototype is then. A prototype here is the working model, all right? So you're going to create that working model. Okay, the fourth step is you need to test and evaluate your prototype, okay? So what you're doing here is you want to see how it works and identify ways that it can be improved. All right, and last but not least, the last thing you want to do is you want to modify and retest, okay? And what that means is you want to make improvements and test it again. All right. If your last name begins, with A to the letter K, put a smiley face in the bottom left-hand corner. All right. So this is your fun sheet on the engineering design process. One last thing I want you to do is on the back of this sheet. On the back of this sheet, I want you to draw this, okay? Because the engineering design process is a process, which means you don't do step by step and then when you get to the end you're finished, okay? It can be ongoing until you get the best product that you can engineer. So this is your fun sheet for TE1.